What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 71 of the Overview. I'm ChanManV, and that's Fishstix, that's ZP, and that was Jake, and then now he reappears.
I'm back.
What's up, guys?
We may or may not be joined by Jake. Oh, there it is.
Well, Jake's a superhero. Sometimes you have to walk off camera to right the wrongs of the world.
My fans know about the chair stream.
The chair stream? Dude, chair streams can get a lot of viewers, man. Lots of people have been proving that. But thanks for joining us, Jake. Big weekend this weekend for Team USA. So really happy we were able to catch you post-celebration mode. Tuesday is far enough removed from that.
Yeah, exactly. It's nice to, I'm a little bit more relaxed now. Move past the hype phase, but still feeling great.
Definitely good. Ben, how you been, man? Yeah, I know I saw you on cam too.
Yeah, pretty good. I made it onto the broadcast.
That's
Just
right.
Not the way I would have liked, but I made it onto the broadcast eventually. I was down there in Santa Monica just enjoying. But we're joined by someone who qualified for the World Cup and someone who casted the event as well today. Mm-hmm. Hello, ZP and Jake. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing good. I will say, like, me and Hex were really surprised, like, in the middle, because we're just saying, they're just like, throws to Malik and like, yeah, Malik's here for an interview. It's like with Ben. I'm just like, wait, what? Ben's here? Like, Ben's on camera. What's going on?
I had to make it. I'm only in San Francisco, so I had to make the flight down.
They flashed you a couple times. I saw you a few times in the crowd too. So I actually saw you for sure. Then the interview, of course, we all saw you.
For the record, it feels like I teleported from Sunday into Tuesday because, of course, like events, like you're meeting tons of people. Of course, you're sort of burning the oil on both ends.
Right.
And I think I slept about 14 hours last night. So my Monday went away pretty quickly, but feeling pretty good here on Tuesday.
Okay, well, perfect timing then. So we can, of course, this episode, we're going to be talking a lot about this past weekend in World Cup in the final group stage that really solidifies what we're going to be seeing at BlizzCon. And then lots of team news and player news that is all surrounding the Overwatch Contenders Season 1, which starts this week also. And as well as just some general team news too, that with some of the big names or big teams that we've grown to love, some big changes there. And then finally, a question for Q&A. And if you guys are interested in writing in a question, go ahead and email us at theoverview@ChanManV.tv, and we'll try to read them out. If not this week, then we'll get it next week. But okay, let's start with World Cup, Burbank. And it was an amazing weekend, especially for Team USA advancing, but also for Team UK, which I believe wasn't getting nearly as much, just generally, it wasn't getting as much credit as USA and as Taipei going into it. A lot of people not picking UK to get through it, but boy, they were just as dominant or potentially even more dominant if you look at the actual record, because they didn't actually lose a set at all. So first off, I want to talk to Jake, given that you are obviously on Team USA and one of the leaders on Team USA. So give us the lowdown on the whole experience and just how it was for you guys while you were there.
Yeah, it was such a blast. That was my first LAN event, so it was like just a fun time to like hang out with everyone. And we'd already met at E3, like all the Team USA people, but still, it was pretty sweet to go to actually compete together at a serious tournament event. That's like a huge moment for a team of any kind, and a national team no less so. It was amazing to do that well. The UK did exceptionally well as well. I would love to play them.
I was hoping to see it, dude.
Some scrims and matches, but I'm glad we didn't have to qualify.
Yeah, seriously.
As shown, they were the one of the top two teams in the group stage, as were we. I think it would have been close for sure. We actually scrimmed them after their match versus Germany to warm up for our game versus Germany, and I think we went 1-1 in maps. And both maps were quite close, so it would have been quite a series, I imagine.
Was definitely happy not to. Yeah, I was definitely happy that you guys didn't have to play each other in the end, because I was wanting both of you guys. I feel like other rounds there were two teams that I wanted to go, and they would end up having to play each other. So it was just like heartbreaking that one of them had to go home. Thankfully, that didn't happen this time around.
One of the things I think was really cool, both the part of like the UK and Team USA doing well, is that I think there was a sort of conception in the community that a team being a full team when not in the World Cup was some sort of like gigantic insurmountable advantage. The only team that people were giving a pass to was South Korea, going, well, but it makes sense because they have such good players. I think what Team USA and Team UK were able to prove is that they also have very good players. And it's not just South Korea that can put together a team of different players that aren't necessarily on the same team across the board, but still develop team synergy and make it work. Where I think overall there was sort of this feeling going in where it was to varying degrees. Like you had people who thought that Chinese Taipei had a small edge and would get over, say, Team USA, but it'd be close. And then you had people going in and saying that Team USA had absolutely no shot because off the pure basis that Chinese Taipei was a full team. So I think hopefully this has sort of shaken this idea that you have to be a full team to be taken seriously in these types of events. It's about putting together a team of good people that work well together. And that's something that Team USA did over a series of tryouts. And they did put together a very good squad, as did the UK.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, actually, Jake, let's talk about your preparation going into this tournament. Talking to a couple people behind the scenes, they mentioned that the USA team, in every spare moment that you guys had, you were talking about strategy, you were putting your heads together, figuring out the synergies that you need to get in place to make this happen for your team. I'll agree with ZP. Like, I was putting a lot of stock in putting a lot of stock against teams like Taipei because they are a pro team and they've been practicing together for so long. So talk to us a little bit about some of the preparation, the scrim regimen, or how you guys just got to this point.
I mean, I think the thing is, we all saw like that was like the popular opinion, you know, on Reddit and other social media sites of just like, yeah, okay, Team USA is like kind of a disappointment this year. There's no chance. Like, you know, these full rosters are just gonna.
Jeez,
it's like, you know, they might do well. They might be, you know, New Zealand, Brazil, but you know, are they even gonna beat Brazil? Right? Like, you know, that's the kind of way people were talking. I think prior to the group stage, I think we all as players on the team were like not at all bothered by that, because like when we would scrim like tier 1 professional US teams and like roll them, and other like US or other World Cup teams and roll them, like we were really not losing like almost anything in scrims. So we felt like, you know, like, okay, whatever, if these people could see these results, they would probably think differently. So I think we always had that confidence going in. I think what Kyle had said prior to the tournament was that I don't know exactly how good this team is yet, but playing Flash Wolves will be a very big litmus test for that, because it's going to sort of place them better, or place us better in the global hierarchy, if you will.
Yeah.
I think we'll absolutely need to improve and get stronger, especially like deepening our strat book in terms of getting ready to go against South Korea at BlizzCon. And you know, the other strong teams at BlizzCon, but
it's just South Korea and the other teams.
well,
That's
I mean, you're gonna have to beat South Korea.
That's the mentality. Yes.
No matter what, you're like, you know, you're gonna have to beat South Korea. I'm sure every single team going to BlizzCon, if you're looking to win, you should have that mentality.
Yep.
If you don't have to play South Korea, that's a gift.
So here's an interesting question I have here, Jake, where I'd say, like, I think part of the reason why people might have been underrating Team USA a little bit might be the idea of like players are really familiar with it and players are not. I would argue that going into it, people were very familiar with you, Sinatra, and Adam, because you guys had been more, just in Adam's case, he's been C9 for ages. Sinatra was a part of like really dominant selfless teams. And of course, you had a long stretch with LGEvil where you guys were doing incredibly well, going back to events like Carbon Series, etc. Do you think that people were kind of sleeping on Raucus, Fact Fiction, and Matt because FaZe was kind of in a rough spot and Fadak was out of it for a while? Because I feel like people weren't really giving them a whole lot of credit, and thus were underrating Team USA even more so than perhaps they should have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of people saw that FaZe hadn't been so successful for like a long time in the scene, so they, you know, sort of painted Fact and Raucus with that same brush. But I think they showed at the group stage that that's just not the case, right? Like that they as individual players are incredibly talented, and certainly not the issue with any professional teams. And now look at FaZe, right? They're doing a ton better. They've really improved a lot, and just after some very, very recent roster changes coming into Contenders. So I think it'll be I think this is sort of a vindication for them, because they are, you know, the talented players. Like, and I think the thing is, if you ask like a professional player or people in the scene, they would actually probably have a better understanding of like, no, these are really, really good players.
Yeah.
But it's very easy, I think, to associate an individual with, you know, how their team is doing. So like, you know, you look at a team, say, look, oh, that's a tier 2, you know, US team. So like, why are you putting a tier 2 US player on, you know, Team USA? But I think the reality is that, you know, that's not how you should judge individuals, especially when you're trying to assemble a completely new roster. You know, like the holes you have to fill in terms of coordination and in terms of like roles are you know, going to be unique. And just because a player maybe isn't finding a ton of success on their professional team, it doesn't mean that they're not the perfect pick for a national team.
Okay, so I'm going to throw something out there, and I want to get y'all's thoughts on it. So Chinese Taipei, we're obviously talking about how underrated Team USA was, no question. I don't think any of us can question that at this point. But Chinese Taipei came in as one of the favorites for a reason. You know, it wasn't just because they were, you know, a pre-made team already. It was because they had destroyed Australia, like the times that they played them and Australia got through. So Chinese Taipei was coming in as a favorite because they were a strong team. So how much of this weekend was them like underperforming, or were they actually just overrated?
Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it's definitely a mix of both. I would say that Chinese Taipei definitely was thrown off by the environment they played in because, of course, playing in OPC, they had a much more friendly crowd than what you had moving into the Santa Monica group stage, where, of course, you're up against Team USA, and then anytime you lose a team fight, what are you hearing? You're hearing, like, USA, USA. Even though I know there's noise canceling all the rest, it's still difficult to drown all of that out.
Yeah.
But, I mean, they did appear to be somewhat uncomfortable. I don't think anyone could look at that and say that they were playing really up to where they were. Like, their engagements were messier than usual. Bacon Jack wasn't getting quite as much done as normal. Like, across the board, like, in any measurement of how you look at a team, Chinese Taipei was not playing as well as they otherwise have been. However, I do think there was a case where it's sort of because they had the regional dominance in OPC, and it didn't really seem like they'd really been bloodied too much, and they did look really strong versus Australia or Team Blank when they played them, that they sort of probably got talked up a little bit over where they actually were. And there's also this general idea to underrate Western teams, to go, you know, the entire meme of NA Overwatch, where teams in the Western scene sometimes get underrated when getting compared to their Eastern counterparts. So I think you mix both of those two together. That's how you get the recipe for what happened in Santa Monica, where you had Team USA and UK come out really strong, and, you know, Chinese Taipei, compared to what people might have expected, came in weaker than what people thought they would be seeing.
Yeah, I haven't had enough time to watch Flash Wolves to know if they played significantly below their kind of standard. But going into this, I'll fully admit, I'll take the L on this one. I was overrating the hell out of this team because not only were they dominant at OPC, they apparently are also dominant against Australia, who made it through. And Cool Matt in chat right now letting us know how he thinks about Australia's chances now, given the fact that teams like
that's brutal, man. Yeah.
But I mean, I was even hearing rumors, and now I'm starting to question if these rumors were true. But I was hearing rumors prior to the this World Cup group stage that Flash Wolves takes maps off Korean teams in scrims. I mean, I heard that from more than one source, and going in, I'm just like, okay, wow, this team has got to be one of the best. In fact, I didn't think there was a chance that they weren't going to qualify. I thought they might qualify through their groups in first place. And of course, no offense, Jake, but this is just going off these rumors that Taipei, aka Flash Wolves, has even taken maps off top Korean teams, which now I'm starting to question if that's actually true. But yeah, I mean, this was a huge surprise for, I think, most people. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm just like way out of the loop, but a lot of people were had the consensus that Taipei, Flash Wolves, was just going to go through in this stage. So seeing the UK go through instead was actually a massive upset in my mind.
In my mind, I understand why thematically a lot of people would see it as a massive upset. For me, though, I mean, just like evaluating all of it, I knew that Team USA had put together something really strong because, of course, I talk a lot with different members of Team USA, and like I did want to fall through or like follow it from afar and figure out, okay, what's going on with this team, even though I wasn't on the committee. So for me, just knowing the strength of the players of Team USA, it didn't really come as a big surprise to me. I actually had USA a little bit favored going in here, but yeah, I mean, it's a case where it really depends on what factors you put a lot of your valuation on. And I think the case there is that for Chinese Taipei, there's certainly a lot of value put on the idea that they were very strong in OPC, and it was thought that would carry over, I suppose.
How close were the matches, Jake? I mean, was it actually close between Chinese Taipei and?
They were definitely the third best team without a doubt in the group. I would say. I think for us, when we going into that last day, when it was we play Chinese Taipei at 10 a.m. and then if we win, we play at 6 p.m. versus we were pretty sure it was going to be Germany, and if we lose, we would play at 8 p.m. or ended up being a little bit ahead of schedule, but versus the UK. So our feeling was that we have to beat Taiwan or the UK. But we honestly felt that the UK was a tougher opponent. We felt that if we lost to Taiwan, it would be very, very, very hard to be qualifying. It's really a bad position to come out losing that series. Because the other thing about the event, which I wasn't a huge fan of, which was that we had to play at 10 a.m. and then our next match was, I think it ended up being at 5 p.m.
Wow.
starting. So that's really bad. Like you don't want to play a really high intensity series, especially like us versus Taiwan. One of the most hyped series. Like we're both undefeated. We're going into this. We both know that this is basically like our best chance of qualifying is winning this match. Both teams were probably very, very aware of that. So we went into that and gave everything. We were like, this is the series. Like if we win this, we're going to BlizzCon. That was our feelings about it, I would say. We kind of knew that Team Germany was a much weaker opponent. And then I think the thing is for us even winning, I think we played worse against Germany than we did against Chinese Taipei. I think we were way less clean, way less coordinated. But like we were tired. It was been a long day, and we trying to maintain that intensity over 10 hours is impossible, really. And I would say the thing I can't imagine is imagine if you lose that series like Chinese Taipei did. Now you're not like riding a high of like we're doing it going into the final series of the day. You're like, wow, we got slammed in this team. Everyone thought we were gonna win, like, and the whole crowd like is cheering for the other team. Like that is a really hard place to be going into a series against Team UK, and especially a team like Team UK that has such like talented individual skill. Where if you make mistakes, they will punish them, and they're going to punish them hard. That's a team that you don't want to be going into feeling anything less than 100%. So I would say the scheduling was really unfortunate. It was kind of like do or die in that series versus Chinese Taipei. But ultimately at the end of the day, I think I don't want to say overrated because that's like it's almost like I'm talking down to the team or trash talking them. And I do have a lot of respect for that team. They're very good, but I'll say overrated in the sense that people saw them beating Team Australia, and they were like, "Wow, that's crazy." But like honestly, Team Australia is not winning BlizzCon. I say that with a very, very, very high confidence. No offense to that. Realistically, it's not happening.
First round opponent.
I would say if there's one thing I think you can't say is overrated, though, just because it cuts across multiple different things and not just Chinese Taipei, is that I think in the future, like, there's definitely a part where people should perhaps not put too much stock into the idea of it's a full team. Yes, that can help, but it's like it's a minor modifier. It's not like some major insurmountable modifier. The players that play Overwatch are smart, and if you put together a good team, you can get really good teamwork. Have players that maybe haven't played together as long. And I would actually argue that going forward in the Overwatch, when you look at how the way that Overwatch League teams maybe built all the rest, you're not going to be seeing as much of like a full group of 6 players that have been together forever and are such just good camaraderie and all that. No, I think for something like Overwatch League, what you're probably going to be seeing more of is intelligent GMs evaluating players of their strengths and going, can this player work well with this group? Let's mix and match and put together the strongest possible team. So have more faith that really smart and adaptable players can work together rather quickly if there's good leadership involved. Don't think that players have to be playing with each other for 6-8 months or more to have a good result.
Okay, well,
I think this segues into discussions that we're surely going to have later about all the team and player swaps that we're seeing right now. Honestly, seeing how UK and US played in this World Cup is opening my mind to all the different combinations that we're probably going to be seeing. Like the teams that today, and we've talked about this in previous episodes of the show, are probably going to be smashed apart and reformed almost entirely for OWL. At least that's the sense that a lot of folks are getting right now. And I think this just reaffirms like these teams that have been playing together for months that, we thought were the best of the best. Well, now Jake is saying that the Team USA, who's only been playing together for a little while, is actually beating other already formed pro teams. And we saw that against Flash Wolves, and we saw that against Israel. And so I'm just really excited right now. I think it's an incredibly interesting time to be tuning into competitive Overwatch because everything is about to change.
Yeah, totally. But getting back to just the matches, I mean, this was a lot of highlight reels throughout the entire weekend. And Jake, you happen to be in quite a few of these highlight reels. So I would say that Jake, you and I think like Mikey had some, Boombox would had some. I mean, Sinatra. It seemed like a little bit of everybody were having these big moments, but definitely you had huge moments. Like at the end of Lunar Colony, that juke on Winston, I think made Reddit and was got upvoted like crazy. So yeah, overall, I mean, grade your play like this weekend, because I think you were one of the biggest topics of this weekend.
I mean, I don't know. You can't rate yourself. It's. I mean,
Of course you can. Come on,
people.
dude.
People seem to like what I was
Why
doing.
don't you talk about the post that you made after the fact about how you got into the zone and how that felt?
There you go. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say in those moments, I sort of like knew that it was time to make a big play. The Winston juke was. It had actually earlier in that map, like the last Primal Rage, the Winston had done exactly the same thing to me and knocked me off the map in exactly that position. So I was ready for what he was going to do, which was cast his leap right when he was going for the final punch to take me off the map. So by like 180ing and doing like a strafe, then I got like just a little bit past him on the leap inside, and then used the punch to actually send me back in and escape the primal. Which is big because it effectively defused an ultimate, and also lets me save Rockets and get a kill. Which is, from that point, you're not really going to lose the fight. It's a big play in that sense. Kind of lucky in the sense of I just happened to be there, right place, right time for the Tracer here. Yeah. And, from there it's just like there's no more pressure to be going on me. Adam gets a great boop on the self-destruct, and we close the map out. Which is kind of what we need in that fight. I mean, we might have won otherwise, but definitely if Rockets dies and I die there, that's going to be a very different situation. But things like this, it's like there's a lot of team play, I would say, that goes into making any one situation. So it's like it's easy to as a spectator to be like, oh look, like here's the big play,
right, of course,
it's on the screen, I know what's going on, especially when you catch it on cam and it's not just like a kill feed from an ult. But like there's no play that is truly individual in Overwatch. It's just like nothing you can do, almost nothing is truly like a solo play.
I mean, the entire team played great. I mean, there's no question. Like Matt, I'd say made a lot of huge plays that I might not have gotten enough credit.
Like
in a lot of
half the pulse bombs.
Exactly, he was amazing. Yeah, for sure. And so yeah, I mean, it was super entertaining. At least from a spectator standpoint, super hype. Seeing those plays. I think these are the type of plays that are necessary too. In terms of Overwatch just getting me this event and everything getting a lot of hype. And whenever it happens during big matches too, that's when everything just kind of snowballs and it gets a lot of attention. So it was great getting a chance to see that. And like Fishstix and ZP, I mean, these type of plays, for individuals, do you think when teams are looking at Overwatch League and trying to sign players, that these type of things have a big impact on people making those decisions?
They certainly help. I would hope that any GM that's looking to evaluate would look at the totality of a player's work and, also consult with other people, go for tryouts and that sort of thing. But yes, big hero plays being on a visible stage like the Overwatch World Cup help a whole lot in raising a player's stock.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so many memorable moments, and those will stick out. I mean, the one thing that resonates the best with team owners and sponsors is that crowd reaction, is those hype moments. So absolutely, that's gonna have a big impact. And I want to ask about my personal favorite moment from the entire tournament, which was at the very end of Nepal. It was Shrine. Yeah, I think it was Shrine. The very end when you guys were down. Germany reclaimed the point. They had something like 86%. There was barely enough time for you to get onto the point. What was going through your mind in that moment? I mean, I think it was you throwing your translocator that actually extended it into the overtime. You were down 4 versus 6 in that last engagement. What did you think about that fight? Like, I thought it was over for sure. I thought there was no way you were holding.
I mean, it's one of those times where you just like, that's what happens when you refuse to give up, right? It's very easy to be like, okay, look, we're down 5 and they're at like 90 and like I'm respawning and they're at 90. So I have like 10 seconds to make it to the point basically. And realistically, if you're making a mad dash to the point, you aren't winning the fight. So I went with the fastest character to roll out, which is Sombra. Always Sombra. If you're in that situation when all you're looking to do is touch for overtime, Sombra's almost every single map in the game the quickest character, assuming you already have a tracer. So went Sombra, used Invis, did the quick rollout, and then just threw the translocator in. I was a couple seconds ahead of time, so I could just wait until the actual 98 teleport in, die, get overtime. And that's just like sort of a rote memorization play. It's like anyone can do that. It doesn't matter how good you are, whatever. You just sort of practice you run invis, and you throw the translocator, press the translocator button. It's not like a crazy difficult play, but it's just like refusing to give up, knowing that hey, maybe my team can win this. I know it's a small chance, but if I don't do this, it's game over. So it's a 100% play. You're always going to make it. So I went for it, got the overtime ticking. Just got the touch for overtime, and then instantly died. Sinatra runs in, one clips the soldier, who actually their support player had gone soldier, which I think was a really key mistake there, because had he been on Zen, he would have been a lot better at defending himself from a tracer potentially. But regardless, whatever happens, Sinatra rolls in, one clips the soldier, continues the overtime for a little bit, then backs out, and at that point we have Adam rolling back with the sound barrier. People are able to stabilize, they lose picks, and then I'm back on Genji. And at that point, we just sort of close it out. We snowball from that soldier pick by Jay and him staying alive for the whole fight. But I mean, that's just a thing of it's like when you're the only player who can make that play. I was the only one who's going to respawn in time, and obviously Adam can't switch because sound barrier is the only way we're actually going to win that map. So I roll out, go Sombra, just get the OT bar, because it's just a matter of believing in your team. You're like, I'm going to give everything, and just give my team one more chance, right? And that's all I can do right now, and that's always the play you're going to do.
Dude, I just remember being in the back room with Hex and Flame, and we were watching that going, all right, there's absolutely no way that you guys are going to bring this back. This is over. It's now evened up 1-1. And that's like, well, they're still alive. Wait.
Comes the sound barrier.
It's like, how is this happening? It was a mix.
That's Overwatch for you.
It's one of those things where really it's always a mix of two things, right? Where there's no doubt about the part where going into that final fight, it wasn't necessarily played well by Germany, where they should have been able to close it out. But you guys played very well in bringing it back, and it did turn into one of the most ridiculous, just crazy moments in Overwatch history of you guys being able to bring that map back. I just remember what our production guys coming back in is like, man, you guys see Team Germany after that? They did not look happy. It's like, yep. I don't think that's something you want to be super happy about when you're on the receiving end of that, but it was just ridiculous. It was definitely one of the better comebacks I think we've seen.
Yeah, guys, if you haven't watched this map, you really have to. I went back earlier today and was just freeze framing those last seconds. You translocate when it ticks to 99%. Literally within the last half a second. It's just those are the moments that I think are going to make this game.
Absolutely. It's
really
important to have a situation like that, and even the timing of it too. Right? It's towards the end of the series too, so I mean, it's very fortunate that with a lot of the timing and things being having them just actually happen at the most optimal way too, from an entertainment standpoint. But let's talk about the crowd a little bit. So going into the Burbank one, I was, and we just finished.
Wait, I need to stop you on one thing. You've been saying Burbank repeatedly.
Oh,
nothing was in Burbank.
Oh, it's not Burbank.
Santa Monica.
Santa Monica. I keep saying calling Burbank. Is that
the
original plan was Burbank, but
it's Santa Monica. Shoot, I should put that in there.
We stayed far away from Burbank.
Okay.
Sunny Santa Monica in a hangar.
Okay, so that's right. We were in a hangar. So, anyways, let's talk about the crowd. Given that we were just coming from Katowice, and that was in the studio, obviously over there. So there wasn't much of a crowd there, even though the setup was quite nice in there. And so the standard we'd had going into that was Australia, right? In Sydney, with just that awesome crowd. So I was hoping, really hoping that the U.S. crowd would, be on par or even better than the Sydney crowd. And, I was definitely very, very happy with it, being led by y'all leader Captain Planet and his giant flag waving and tight, I don't know, his blue tights and everything. That was pretty epic, man.
Dude, of anything anyone expected coming into the Santa Monica stage, no one expected Captain Planet in a bodysuit. That was not something
I gotta read this up. I gotta read this up.
It did happen.
Where is it? Here we go. We gotta show everybody this. Actually, Ben, were you sitting next to Captain Planet at all during this?
I was in the front, but a different part of the front.
Okay.
So no, I was not.
Yeah. I mean, this was like college football style, like running across the stage and waving your school banner. But this was the USA flag, so super hype. Definitely good stuff there. But yeah, overall, I think the crowd was great. I mean, I think that it added a lot to the broadcast itself. Whether it's just the setup with the desk being obviously in front of the crowd and people putting up their posters and everything, and just getting that kind of interaction too. There were some funny snapshots we saw with 3 and 4s and things like that. But overall, yeah, what was the crowd like live there? As a player, Jake, like, did you feel the crowd out there or no?
As a player, it was awesome. The crowd was a total 7th man for us. For the group stage, it was just like, there's a great feeling when like every time you make a huge play, or like your team, wins a point, the crowd just roars. It's like a total momentum for your team. Like everybody is totally focused on the next fight. You're like, let's keep going, like keep this rolling. When you lose fights, people are quiet. You're like, all right, it's fine. Like refocus. And I think that was a big thing for us as a team of like, it's such a huge thing to be playing with that crowd. Like teams really did. I know, like especially Team Germany and Chinese Taipei. I'm sure like it's not fun to play against that when you're losing a fight and the crowd roars. Like it feels bad, man. And like it's like very difficult to. It's the absolute opposite of riding momentum. It's a total way to stifle your momentum, right? Or help the other team steamroll. So I think it was huge for us to have a crowd that's supportive. Like it definitely made us play better without a doubt. So a huge shout out to everyone who came out and supported. Yeah, just that's all I can say.
Just to add on to that, by the way, it was also a big part when casting. So like the 2 games Hex and I did when we casted Team USA, you cast that in a way that's almost different in a sense, because anytime there's a huge play, you kind of want to let off and stop talking when you have a huge crowd roar, where in most of the games we did, the crowd was still loud, but not like crazy loud. So the match would end and we would talk as normal. But anytime we would end a Team USA map, the crowd was just losing their minds. Or just like, we're going to stop and like, let this breathe. Let everyone listen to how hyped this crowd is for what's going on. And you would also hear it in game where, it'd be like, yep, even the crowd agrees with this play, as, you get a 2 or 3K pulse bomb from Sinatra or something, and the crowd just like loses its mind. And you want to respect that and like sort of incorporate it to the broadcast if you can.
Yeah, and a lot of these big tournaments, especially team games like League of Legends, all the players, they're playing inside of booths, so they don't actually get a chance to really feel the crowd. So given that you guys are playing in an environment where you can hear the sound, you can feel it, I mean, overall, what do you guys think of that? I mean, I actually think that's a better thing, right? I mean, there's clearly home field or home studio advantage whenever you're doing it. What is that tail, man? That's awesome. That is a real cat. Holy crap. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
There's a real cat.
Yeah,
we've been joined.
Cool. Yes.
You guys meet my cat.
Yeah. So what do you guys think? Like, what do you guys think about?
I'm sorry, Chris. I forgot the question.
I know. Do you think there should be booths?
Photo up by Jake, by the way. Like Jake actually planned the cat well in advance.
Oh, he just strolled in. He does his own thing.
So booth or no booth, guys? What do you think is better?
I think it's a question for the players.
Yeah.
I mean, Jake, you said this is your first LAN, which, by the way, I'm still like mind fucked about. Like, wow, this is the first LAN you've actually played in. But yeah, what do you think? Should there be booths?
Booths are great, but I would say that the headsets they gave us were like really good. Like, I mean, even for our games where the crowd was probably louder than anything else, like it was just a dull roar on a huge play, and like the rest of the time you like totally couldn't hear it, right? Like the soundproof headsets were actually really, really nice. Especially because they weren't like the in-ear ones. Like they were actual headsets that were like had like the like set up like block noise, or like the helicopter headsets or something. Like although a lot of places they do like just like the noise canceling headphones that have white noise, and then you actually have to use in-ears, which is kind of crappy because in-ears can be uncomfortable and the sound quality isn't so good. But the headsets they had were really great. Like I was like sort of a little taken aback. I was like, maybe boost would be better, but I don't know. The headsets were great. Like I didn't feel like it was a problem at all. Like I didn't feel like there was any issue with it.
So there's kind of a misconception here where people think that the only way of really canceling out most of the noise is using a soundproof booth. But the reality is that active noise cancellation technology has come a long way in recent years. And the way it works, it's not just like random noise that deals with it. it's actually what you have in the headsets. You have technology that recognizes certain noises coming in and then creates a counter noise so you don't actually hear anything. Then you combine that with white noise on top of it, plus like good manual just sealing out of noise by virtue of how the headset is designed. And then you have earbuds underneath that give you the game noise. The sound that's actually reaching your ears from the outside is very little. Like, as Jake will mention, you'll hear like a dull roar or something, but there's really good noise canceling technology there. I think people tend to underestimate just how good it really is.
Well, let's go one step beyond that, because we're talking about Overwatch League now, and we're talking about simming, just these type of home games and away games and what comes along with that. And Jake, you just told us that just having the home crowd was already an advantage just from, hypeness and whenever you're making big plays. Now there's the opposite too, where the home team is booing you, and jeering you. And that's actually all part of sports. The question is do we want to introduce that into, Overwatch and this type of competitive field, or do we want that ideal competitive environment that I think most esports try to strive for, where it's just quiet, basically, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like there's like a middle ground there in that I do think there's like, some really awesome parts in having a crowd that's insanely hyped for one team, like a crowd that support like a home crowd essentially. And I think that really speaks to the, maybe silencing some doubts about the franchise model, that maybe it's going to be more successful than people expect in transitioning to esports. But I would say that like, there's a middle ground, right? You don't want it to be like where the crowd is like, it's like really obviously like the crowd is like drowning out, game sound is actually like affecting the game. But I don't think you're going to be able to stop people from like, feeling that momentum of the crowd. Even if you have a perfect sound, like noise canceling booth, if you can look out and see like the whole audience, jumping to their feet, right? Like, it's the same effect really. So, I mean, the roar is awesome. And I think that the way this tournament was run was impressive for me. And I think like, BlizzCon, Owl can learn a lot from these tournaments. And, I don't think they need to change a whole lot. So in my view, I think it's not a bad thing, but maybe I'm biased. So maybe if I play in front of someone else's home crowd, it'll be a different story.
I would say if you take a look at the crowds both in Australia and, of course, in the USA, just those held a weekend ago, that the power of geolocation makes for really fun spectating of games. And I think if the hometown has a bit of an advantage because of it, I think that's totally fine. I don't think that people should be going, oh, there has to be purity, because look, you look at any other traditional sport, there is an advantage for playing in front of a friendly crowd. And it's also like a friendly crowd, especially if they know they have a little bit of effect on it, that also encourages people to come out and support their team. It encourages people to band behind their city, their nation, go out and have these like fun experiences with each other and know that, hey, your cheering does matter. It's a good thing, period. If anyone wants to come out and make an argument and go like, no, you must have the most sterile and just bland of competitive environments that's 100% fair. It's like, no, home and away games are great for esports. Please just, no, I reject your argument.
The only problem is it's all going to be played in LA.
Well, that's the first season, though.
So we think for the first season.
That's just the first season.
I have a suspicion that won't be the case. I have a suspicion that OWL will travel around a little bit. And full disclaimer, I have no insider information whatsoever on this one. It's not a leak, but I really think that, especially given the fact that part of OWL is like, hey, if you have a team, if you have a city, we're allowing you to hold tournaments or competitions there. I think that means that we might see competitions happen in some of the OWL cities. But anyway, that's a bit of an aside. But hopefully, I hope we see that. Otherwise, the two LA teams are going to have the perpetual home team advantage, I guess. Sort of, maybe.
It's going to be weird when they play each other.
That'd be kind of funny if like the LA crowd actually like finds a team that's not the LA team that they like more, just because of like the players or something. I don't know.
It's going to be that weird Clipper-Laker thing where one of them's a home team and the other's an away team, yet they're playing in the same arena they both play in.
Well, you're going to get that in the NFL soon now, too, with the Chargers and the Rams going to be playing out of the same stadium. Basically, your West Coast Jets-Giants.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, well, last thing about the World Cup here is, and the question is there going to be a redraw? Because, like, I think a lot of people went into, this final groups kind of knowing what the actual top 8 brackets were going to look like because of some information on the site before, But then there was talk about there possibly being a redraw, and Ben, you even retweeted that there might even be a redraw like on air, right? So
that was my misunderstanding. By the way.
Is there actually going to be one? Like, I just want to clarify it to everybody.
I mean, I don't know anything specific, and nothing was talked behind the scenes, so I'm not speaking anything official. But I thought I remember reading about an official redraw that was going to happen.
I mean, that'd be cool.
Said it on stream. There is going to be a redraw.
Oh, there is. Okay, I missed that part.
The brackets that people thought it was going to be
something like that
are not accurate. It was confirmed to me that the brackets that were originally published, like the ones that showed, like, i.e., there's like 6 teams, and then it goes like whatever, and then South Korea, Canada, and then like the Santa Monica group stage. Those are not accurate brackets. This is the confirmation that was made to me. We were asking this because we were like, does beating Taiwan get a guarantee us playing South Korea? Like, that's a bad tournament organization if that works like that. And Blizzard was super responsive to that feedback. So I don't know exactly how they're gonna do it. I don't know. I have no details about it, but I know that they're gonna have a good way to see BlizzCon. You don't want to put 2 of the top seeds in a round 1 matchup. That's just not how tournaments are supposed to go.
Yeah, but it might happen anyway.
Yeah, it could happen.
We have no idea.
We have
no idea. I think it's gonna just be a random draw, to my understanding, which is going to be super interesting. I know a lot of people will be watching that anxiously.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, the top 8 looks really, really good at this point. So, is there any particular team you're looking to go against? I mean, I figured it might be UK, given how much trash they were talking.
Oh, in terms of I mean, for us, we just want to play the teams that we're most confident against.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't want to sling too much trash.
Yeah. Sure.
It's probably not UK. Probably not South Korea.
In the finals, though.
France?
Yeah, well, I'm talking about whatever first round matchups, right? The teams that I would like on the other side of the bracket, so that we don't have to beat them to get to the grand finals.
That pretty much says
keep going down the list. We'll figure it out eventually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jake, you're looking at this all wrong. If you play South Korea in round 1 and defeat them, you steal their aura of intimidation. Then you get to wear it like a cloak around you.
It is true.
Like
it is
Team
true.
USA
But then
hockey,
again, beating South Korea is also the biggest challenge of the whole tournament in my mind. So, and probably everyone else's mind too. So I think that you never want to have that matchup round 1. That's just like, it's like, if you lose that matchup, you're like, oh man, we would have beaten so many of these other teams that are making it farther than us. So that's like kind of frustrating. If you win the matchup, it's huge, but it's no bigger. You're not going to ever want that matchup in round 1. If I pick the brackets, I'm seeing South Korea in the grand finals 10 times out of 10.
Well, we want to see that too.
Why would you play the most challenging opponent before you've beaten the weaker opponents, right?
I mean, that kind of happened last year. The South Korea's toughest match by far was against the US. Not like it was super close, but
true.
Let me try to draw some spicy beef at you though. If you guys go up against France, who ends up winning?
Us.
All right. So
what do you want him to say?
I mean, France is like,
France?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Rogue is not looking super hot, to be honest.
Yeah.
Let's see them. Let's see what they do in the next tournament they play. I don't know. Like, I think they came back from Korea a lot weaker of a team than they left. I think Soon's confidence is way lower than it used to be. If you watch the way he plays, it's radically different, way less scary. You're not always afraid of him just like flying in and rolling your back line, rolling your tracer. He's a much more conservative player, which can be good in some situations, but in others is a real liability. I think some of the players on the team are absolute powerhouses, but others have struggled, I think, to adapt to slight changes in the dive meta. So I wonder if the Doomfist patch and the Zarya changes bring further changes to these characters. Is that going to be a good thing for Rogue? It might be a really good thing, right? It might return them back to their original dominance, but it also might push them further away from it. So I'm not exactly sure how France will be on the next patch, but I would definitely say that they're not going to be as dominant as people might expect looking at, past NA tournament results. I think Apex really showed a lot, right? Like Envy did significantly better than Rogue with, in my opinion, a harder bracket. So I don't know if people can really say Rogue is like the top team or the top Western team any longer.
And the Rogue was the team that I think that whole discussion we had earlier about just preset teams, right? Rogue came in the favorite actually for World Cup when it was first announced, just because they were a preset team. And like you said, I don't think that's even close to the case right now.
Oh, hey, speaking of Rogue, the Rogue Twitter tweeted exactly 7 minutes ago, more announcements. Please join us. Welcome Colsty. for the Rogue OW squad as a substitute for Overwatch Contender Season 1. I think that's because Wins is going to QuakeCon, I think.
Really? Oh my God.
So Colsty's
Okay.
in.
Okay, that's
Live
Why would
breaking
we be
news.
going to QuakeCon? I don't think the payload takes a stop in QuakeCon. This doesn't make any sense.
I had
$1 million prize
that $1 million
pool.
is a reason
I had
to
dinner.
go.
I
Man.
had dinner.
No,
with,
I know. I'm just let the joke.
I was lucky enough to have
Yes,
dinner
yes.
with Immortals. We went out to Korean barbecue after I think the night we beat Brazil, and I was talking to Fate most of the night, and he has really really impressive English. Like it's much better than you would expect maybe from someone who's lived in Korea their whole life. But I asked him about, we were talking about all these teams. We ended up talking about Rogue, and when he mentioned Wins, all he said was this.
Like driving a
He
payload?
drives the payload. Yeah, he's like that's his job is he say, wins, yeah, wins. I think it's
Okay.
the way Rogue likes to play. It's not that Wins is a bad player, but the way Rogue likes to play, they're always in your face. They're trying to hold you at the spawn point as soon as they take the point.
Somebody has to move the payload.
Someone's got to push the payload. Like it's just the way it works. So I don't know. Like I'm not convinced this is going to be a huge problem for Rogue if they have to sub Wins out.
Yeah, that payload moves slower though when there's only one guy on it. But anyways, why don't we wrap up World Cup? Congratulations, obviously, to Team USA as well as Team UK. I know we didn't spend like a ton of time there, but there are a lot of, I think, big moments for Team UK too, and all their players. And in fact, I think we're going to talk about one of their players a little bit further down that's joining a team for the Contenders. But before we do that, I do want to give a quick reminder to everybody that you can find the Overview on iTunes as well as all the other audio channels like Google Play and SoundCloud. So just look up the Overview or look up Overwatch or search for it whenever you're on iTunes if you have an iPhone or an iPad. And you can go to soundcloud.com/ChanManV and you'll find the Overview there too if you want to find it. And if you can help us out by leaving us a nice rating if you enjoyed the show, that actually helps out when people are trying to look up Overwatch podcast. They can find the Overview. But let's move on to Overwatch Contenders Season 1. And outside of the last few days, actually after our last show, I'd have to say, there was no mention of Contenders. Obviously everybody's talking about World Cup, but not even the schedule was quite out. And I think finally the schedule came out, I think on Friday maybe, or Saturday. So people were like, oh yeah, the Contenders is happening. I totally forgot. And Contenders is happening now. It's basically in a few days. So immediately after World Cup, we're now changing, our focus to Contenders. And, there's a whole new set of teams. And those you might not remember, there's actually a few teams in Contenders that have disbanded, and right now, or at least at the time, the organizations were just sitting with spots with no teams. So some of that has been resolved now. And, leading the way, Cloud9 signed Laser Kittens. So they'll be competing in Contenders, and they also added Nevix to their squad too. So some changes from Misfits, clearly. I guess we could probably pull in more of those news from Misfits too. Reinforced being benched on Misfits also. So lots of changes there. But yeah, Cloud9 participating in Contenders. What do you guys think?
Hey, Cloud9 made it into Contenders. Congrats, guys.
Hey man, no matter what it takes.
Well, I think the clear
what
thing
it
to
takes.
really note there, though, that as far as it goes, that it's a clear shift from C9, where they are going from being a North American organization now to an EU organization.
Yep.
That's a big shift because, of course, with their original roster and what they were always known as being one of the most dominant North American organizations, obviously they hit troubles in the last few months, but now buying Laserkins, this is a very firm shift to focusing on the EU side of things. And of course, in addition to OWL news and all that stuff.
Yeah. So, I think that's going to be exciting for a lot of folks. Obviously a lot of people love Cloud9, so getting a chance to see that. Another thing too is that Misfits is now going away from an all Swedish team, with some of the additions that they've been adding. So, yeah, I think that they added Is it Zupa? Is that
Zuppa?
Is it Zuppa?
I don't know.
Yeah, so they added Zupa, who's
it's almost Swedish. It's 5 Swedes and a Finn. It's
pretty close. Yeah, I guess true. but it's not officially a Swedish team. So, maybe they're open at least to adding some folks that are not Swedish there. And then we've got another couple of spots that have been nabbed up too. So Movie Star Writer, they disbanded shortly after Contender Season 0. And TL recently, with the announcement of most of the roster going back to Quake or leaving for CSGO, they've had an open spot too. So we've got Gamer Origins taking over the Movie Star Writer spot, and then we've got Envision taking over the TL spot. So any thoughts on that?
Well, I think for Envision, I mean, they're a case where they did just barely miss out from qualifying for NA Contender Season 1 back in their place for Season 0. So I think it's a case where you have a pretty strong group of players there that want to make another run at it. So for me, that's sort of a natural pickup in terms of them going in and riding into that spot.
I mean, I find it pretty weird that like teams are now buying into Contenders. I don't think this was the intention. Like the intention of Contenders was to provide a pathway for players to like prove themselves and qualify. And yeah, that seems to be out the window now as teams are getting dropped and other teams are buying in.
I think there's actually...
Ben, you're not thinking anywhere near big enough about this, because I think that it's completely within that idea. Because, okay, so let's do a thought experiment.
Not the long-term vision, like
yes,
I don't know.
yes,
Well,
yes.
I think
I would agree with the long term.
So we need to have this tier 2 scene.
Wait,
let's say in the long term. Let me try and get this point out.
Yeah.
Let's say in the long term that Contenders like continues to go forward, and let's say it's going at the same time as Overwatch League. Overwatch League is going to need new players to feed into it. If you're an organization and you want to pride yourself on building good players that eventually go to the Overwatch League, wouldn't having a spot in Contenders, raising talent, developing them, and then getting them signed with an Overwatch League team potentially be profitable? I feel like it could be. And if you want these teams to invest to develop talent and be a part of the scene, their spots need to have value. So whether or not it was the intent or not for it to work out like this, I don't think it's a bad thing at all that you have this case where there's value in Contender spots, because the reality is that if you want players to get a salary before Overwatch League and that sort of stuff, you're going to need to incentivize orgs to build value in this sort of scene.
Jake, you got a point you're going to make?
Sorry.
Except for the cat.
Someone in the chat to see the cat. But what I was going to say is that I think absolutely it's follow up on what ZP said. It's absolutely crucial for the tier 2 scene. Like if it were just like casual teams, like just like amateur unsponsored teams that were in Contenders, that'd be really scary, because that means that the only professional players are the Overwatch League players. And if you're not in the Overwatch League, you're doing this on your own dime, and like you just have to like make it before you run out of money, basically, or have to get a real job, which is like, that's scary, right? Like I think it's much better if teams have academy teams and Contenders teams, and maybe they like use them to develop talent, kind of like a AAA league. But I think in no ways it's a bad thing. Like I think the more you have like people selling spots, and that's not that they're selling them, rather, but it's that someone's buying them. It's that there's a value to these spots, and that value has been determined by the market. So that's a really, really good thing for all the players and organizations that are maybe interested in not just the highest level Overwatch League scene, but maybe also want to foster the grassroots portion of the scene as well.
And here's another good way of putting this here is that let's think about this from a bigger point of view. Team Liquid was paying the salaries of all the players on their roster when they competed under the Team Liquid brand in order to get that Contender spot. Effectively, one of the value things that Team Liquid built there was earning that spot, and they earned that spot as an organization by paying their players a salary. Therefore, Team Liquid absolutely should have had ownership of that spot to do with it however they wish, whether it be trying out a new roster of players or selling it to a different team.
Yeah, I think this season 1 is a special situation too. Like I don't think we will see many organizations just leave after they've qualified for a Contender spot. We shouldn't see that in the future. This is just a very unique position, given that Overwatch League is just about to start, and people obviously finding out more details about that all and what it means to actually be part of it. So season 2 and 3 and 4, I don't see this happening very, very often. But to your point, yeah, I think that it's good to have this. It's good to even have the brands involved in the Contenders, because nobody's gonna watch it if it's just a bunch of like these names that nobody even heard of, team names in particular.
FNRGRE.
Yeah, like nobody's gonna watch that like the first time around. Like,
although Bazooka Puppies is a phenomenal brand, I will give them that.
Bazooka Puppies.
To that point, though, Ben, for the record, is that I have given plenty of people from FNRGFE shit anytime I have seen them going, please choose a real name.
Yes.
I've harassed Matt about it. I've harassed Buds. I mean, pick a player in FNRGFE. It's just, guys, please fix it.
Now they're going to keep it because of that.
Long history of funny names in esports. You got to have a team name that communicates very, very clearly that you are an amateur team and that you want to be sponsored. And bird noises, FNRGFE, the weirder the better. As far as like
my dong.
My dong.
Exactly.
My dong.
My dong was sponsored very quickly, so there might be something.
Because I didn't want to hear that people saying my dong on broadcast. That's why they said
That's what I mean. The legendary trolls.
It was an altruistic move.
That's the real MVP.
You're right.
If you want to get sponsored real quickly, just go for the name My Dog.
Well, let's see. Another bit of news, good news for a member of Team England is that there's rumor that Christopher is going to be the 6th man for Envision, so getting a chance to compete in Overwatch Contenders. And Christopher played well this past weekend. You'd have to think it has a lot to do with that, and that's great. It's definitely great news. I mean, if people are getting opportunities like that. Again, hopefully more of the English team will get, be able to, parlay some of the good play they had this weekend too.
Well, I just hope that if that is true, that they have gotten a sponsorship lined up with Kleenex, because Christopher will be having tears streaming down his face as he realizes that he's unable to play with Cruz while being on that team. The bromance will be getting broken up.
Oh man. He's definitely the teddy bear, I guess, on that team. But let's see, any other bit of news that we missed here? Might have left off anything else? I don't think so. It seems to be a lot of things.
The Overwatch League is like, man, yeah, there's so much floating around in the ether, but you're gonna have to the general public's gonna have to be patient for about a week, because there's gonna be a lot of stuff incoming. Not just about everything, about every team in the league. I have heard so many rumors. I don't know which ones are true.
Let's just say I kind of wish the show this week.
Keep your eyes peeled. Keep your eyes peeled. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yo, we StarCraft now. Announcements of announcements.
I mean, exactly.
Let's go.
Build the hype. I love it.
Let's just say I wish our show would have been on Friday this week. Maybe there's supposedly a lot of stuff coming out, and I don't actually know it either. So me and Ben are kind of like, but I definitely been hearing the rumor mills about lots of things coming out. So next week should be epic. Next week we should have tons of stuff to talk about, as always. But why don't we do some Q&A? We've got an email question here from Evan N. And he asks, who do you think the best players in the world are at their respective roles or characters? Love the show and keep up the good work. So we always, there's like a reoccurring question. Like every 3 months, 4 months, we seem to get this question. And it's always good to talk about, just because I think when we're talking about players and just even celebrity aspect of players, or even just as a caster's EP, and for us to find favorite players and things like that, it's good to have them, be regarded as number 1 X in the world, or just the best, Winston player in the world, or whatever it is. So right now, do you think there are any players that do nab those roles right now? Because, sometimes it's not very obvious, or it's not very clear, because there's just a lot of players that are very, very good at certain characters. But right now, is there somebody that would stand out to you guys?
I feel like Boombox made a good case for himself this weekend. Oh man, this is the hardest question in the world, because team play is 80% of this game, for the most part. So
there's only one call.
I wouldn't say team play is 80% of the. I don't know. I wouldn't say team play is 8% of the game. I think there are very big individual differences. The question is there such an individual difference that you can ever declare this player is number 1, that player is number 1? I think sometimes there can be. Right now, I think it's pretty difficult, because there's definitely a top tier, but drawing differences between the top tier is pretty difficult. If there is one thing, though, where I'll say one person, at least in recent memory, has really stood above the pack, and it's sort of this is a sub character, right? But so when you look at Diva, you have normal Diva plays and what you do in the mech, and then baby Diva plays what you do in out of the mech. And I will say, without doubt, Matt's baby Diva play has been above pretty much anything I have
Okay, I
seen.
give
Just
you
because
that.
his ability to
Yeah.
read back like real quickly is just it's actually absurd. Never mind support kills and everything else. Like I would put Matt as #1 baby diva, but other than that, in terms of other roles and whatnot, there's always just like a top tier.
Fran is still the best soldier player in the game and probably always will be, banned or not. He's a freak
Rip.
of nature.
There's rumor that there's an
player.
alt floating around.
He is hardware banned, I believe. So
Oh, he's
that's gonna be
hardware
tough.
banned. Okay, never mind then. That could be just complete
The
rumor.
Fran's in a tough spot these days,
Yeah.
but he's still in my mind. I remember I was actually so sad when he got banned because playing against the Fran made me so much better. Like you have to play smarter than Defran because you won't out aim him, like, and he knows that too. So he's gonna force you to like take aim duels with him every single time he can because he will win the aim duel and he knows he'll win the aim duel. So he will force them constantly over and over again. So playing against a Fran, you have to like you can only beat him by great teamwork and like perfect play. So he elevates as a DPS player playing against a Fran. I never learned more than when I was matched up against a Fran. I never had a hotter crucible in which to forge my ability than Defran's aim. It's like make a mistake, you will die. You will hit every headshot. So you need to not make that mistake, and you need to put him in a position where you can't lose the fight instead of a position where it's just highly advantaged, right? Because that kind of fight, you're not beating Defran.
A lot of people in chat are throwing out Flower. I have
Go
to
ahead.
agree. I was talking about Flower way before he was on winning teams. This guy's aim is just insane. I have to agree with you, Twitch chat.
What, Flower for #1 soldier?
I mean, just for DPS in general,
But
yeah.
the really hard thing is like so many different players. It's like you could say, oh, Flower's a projectile DPS player, but like the characters that he actually plays and the way he even plays those characters is dictated by his teammates and the people around him. So I think the struggle in trying to really say best X role, best Y role is there's so even within only one character, there's a million ways you could play it depending on the team, depending on what your team needs from you. Like, some teams you're playing it wrong if you're not more aggressive. Some teams you're playing it wrong if you're not more passive. And so the in my mind, the best player is the player who can fill, exactly what his team needs and do it insanely well. And a player like Flower is so versatile that, he certainly meets those criterion. But that's just what makes it so hard, right? It's like it's very, very hard to compare apples to apples because there's very, very few players who fill exactly the same role on two different teams, right? Because perhaps the same role doesn't exist on two different teams.
I completely agree. And one thing I note there too is that like not only are there different ways of playing different characters, there's also like different ways which people rate stuff. Like to give you an idea, like some people in chat are going, well, if a player is really versatile, does that make them the best player? It's like, well, yes and no. It makes them a really versatile player, but there are times in Overwatch where just having a player that's overwhelmingly dominant in one role is better than having the player that can play everything, especially if you're in a meta where you just need that player on that hero like 90% of the time. So that's the reason why it's difficult to say, well, this is the top tier player of X and the undisputed #1, because as Jake just alluded to, a lot of it is situational based, a lot of it is team based. And also, I mean, there are players where you could go at a tracer and be like, well, this tracer is better at, say, getting pulse bombs, but this tracer is better at getting one clips with pistols. So, I mean, it varies.
Yeah. Well, is it safe to say that Flower's the best Junkrat at least? Is there a better Junkrat out there?
Catch me at BlizzCon, Flower.
Oh. Okay.
So, Chris, I don't know if we have another
junk
question queued up.
No, we don't actually. So
I'm going to interject with a question of my own.
Sure.
I forgot to bring up earlier, and this is to you, Jake. Doomfist is probably going to be live in Contenders. Blizzard hasn't. I don't think they've said anything officially.
No, this is, I believe that.
Oh, is it 100? Have they said it 100%?
They haven't said that, but it was my understanding.
It would be weird if he's not.
The only reason that Doomfist was not live in the World Cup was because some of the group stages were played before Doomfist.
Yeah, right.
And they wanted all the group stages to be the same. So I cannot imagine that Contenders
Yeah.
Season 1 would not have Doomfist.
It would not make
I
sense.
would be so shocked.
So what do you think? Is he?
Also, if it's not played on a tournament client, it's not possible. Like every tournament.
That too.
That is not on LAN has been played on the regular live client, so it's like you can't go back in time on patches without the tournament client.
Right.
So what do you think about Doomfist? Are we going to see a lot of him? A little of him? Is he strong?
But the
is
other
he
thing
weak?
is he's good, but he's not overpowered. I think he's actually in a really great spot right now. Like there's so many people complaining on Reddit, and they're like, "This character's busted because I died. I can't do anything about it." But the thing is, really, I hope Blizzard will realize that you have to stop listening to people who say those things, because those are coming from people who don't understand the game well enough to be making comments on balance. It's frustrating to me, but it's like the counterplay to Doomfist is largely prior to like when every one shot in the game, inherently the counterplay is prior to the one shot, right? Like you play against Widow, it's not surprising when you die in one shot, you peek a sightline because you're like, oh, he had a big headshot. But if you're like a lower tier player, that's not happening very much because not many Widows are hitting nasty headshots on you at the lower levels. And Widow's such a weak character that it's not super oppressive because of the way the one shot has to work. But the counterplay to Doomfist is position well so that you can't get bounced into a back wall, or that when you do have to peek a choke that would put you in a corridor where you're going to get bounced, you need to be ready to bait that punch and counterplay it, right? Because the Doomfist, when he goes for these plays, he's incredibly vulnerable. Once he gets a kill, though, he's in an incredibly good position, I like his ZP. But once he gets that kill, and he can start to snowball the fight with shields, he has a ton of potential. But he can also go the complete opposite way and just fail a kill and then immediately feed, which you have characters like, Genji and Tracer are much better at making like a half commitment where they go in but still survive even if they don't get kills. So I think Doomfist is a very all-in character. So, he can just as easily feed as he can, get an insane spree. So I think he's going to be an awesome character to watch because he can just totally snowball out of control and destroy a game. But he's also, I don't think OP whatsoever. I think if they at all nerf him, if the one shot is not a one shot anymore, or they give him any sort of significant nerf, I don't think you'll ever see him played, because I think he's so reliant on that one shot ability. You take away the Roadhog one shot, the character's never going to get played again. I don't care what they do to that character. Unless they give him like 3,000 HP, people aren't going to be playing him again. Like you could actually give the current Hog 1,000 HP, and I'm pretty sure he'd be worse because he just feeds more ultimate.
Golly, that's brutal.
I'm like, you know what I mean?
Brutal.
Like you really destroy the design of a character by removing its core influential mechanic. And both of these characters is one shot. So my only hope and my plea to Blizzard is don't ruin another character.
Okay, so we're gonna see triple, quadruple. Is this gonna be ladder style where we see quadruple DPS? There's only like
Zarya.
single tank and single.
Zarya's back, baby. I can't wait.
Zarya is back. That's true.
And against Doomfist, she's a great hero in the new patch. She's played a ton more in scrims. I don't know exactly where the meta's gonna land, but with the change to grab, there's such a necessary change. It was insane. Part of the reason you couldn't run Zarya very much previously was because like half the characters in dive can escape the grab. Like, you know what I mean? It's like you get a 6-man grab and it turns into a 3-man grab. It's like, oh, well, all right, that's okay, I guess. And radically reduces the number of targets you have for it. But it's a really, really good change for the character. The character fits so well. It's great synergy with Doomfist. The bubble keeps him alive, gets you high energy. Great and grab combo with the Doomfist ult is one of the best. You can burst through Transcendence and stuff, and you can't be stopped by D.Va like a Pulse Bomb can. So there's a ton of synergy. I think you're going to see Zarya making a big comeback this patch. Maybe even a little bit of Ryan, although, to be honest, Ryan just still feels incredibly weak to me. Some people have been playing him in like scrims and stuff, but I'm really unconvinced. Like, I've seen other teams do it. I really resist it. I think Ryan is going to be one of the worst characters again once people start to figure out the patch.
Why would you play Ryan? Like, I mean, I know Ryan and Zarya always, it's always a very good
I've
combo,
seen a bit
but
of
still.
Actually, being a little bit more popular. Double shield tanks with like to have more sustain and delay to let your Doomfist make plays with like a soldier and then on to tank him. There's ways to make it work, but Ryan just feels so weak to teams that know how to kite him. He feels so ineffective and such like a waste of a hero, when you could have a hero like Winston or D.Va or Zarya that can just like take control of the game, take control of a team fight. So he's a huge enabler hero, but the heroes that he enables aren't that good anymore. To be honest, I think if Roadhog is not good again, Reinhardt will not be good again.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I think we might see more Ryan is because Zarya and Ryan have a combo pretty well. And we've already started to see a slight bit more Ryan, especially on certain tighter points, like of course like King's Row defense. You might still see a Ryan, but I hope we see a little bit more. It would be nice, that buff to swing speed, not really making too big a difference though.
All right, we might have time for one or two more questions. So anybody in the Twitch chat got a question? Go ahead and
Felder TV asks, what are some locations you'd like to see for OWL teams? Some more additional cities. Chris, any thoughts?
Any cities?
Yeah, which additional locations?
Uh,
I'd like to see Seattle. I'm just a West
Yeah,
Coast
let's get some
guy.
PNW. Let's go.
BMW. What?
Or
BMW.
Pacific Northwest.
Oh,
PNW.
oh yeah,
Pacific
PNW.
Northwest, man. Get some
Yeah,
Pacific
Seattle.
Northwest. More central teams. There's only like
Toronto would be cool.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
Chicago would be
Chicago.
Chicago would be great.
Chicago. I'd love to see like maybe even a Vancouver team, maybe a second Canadian team would be cool.
Let's
Yeah.
just go all the way up the West Coast.
I'm
I'd
all
love
about that West
I want to
Coast.
visit. I
Let's
want to
go.
visit Vancouver. Let's go.
Exactly.
Obviously, Europe only has one team so far.
The German
so
team would
I
be
think
good.
Paris.
I would love
Berlin.
to see Paris Rogue. Oh my god, how insane!
Yeah.
How cool would that be? The
They
6 French players in
Yeah,
Paris.
that would be awesome.
That I would just love to see that.
They seem to be received really, really well over there. Like with the marketing of the World Cup team. I mean, I think even the nation,
The government
the
tweeted
government
them out.
tweeted
Yeah,
it.
I love that. I was like, yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
man,
crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
They
totally.
like lit up the Eiffel Tower. It was insane. Like they're super supporting.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna see more Detroit. Yeah,
Kanye.
Detroit's
Going
obviously.
into
Detroit,
I
Detroit
don't-
Renegades.
Yeah, Detroit Renegades. I'm not sure if Detroit's a huge market though, but yeah, and the Renegades are there, that's for sure. I think that's. I mean, anything else like an Asian team? I mean, Tokyo team
I
would
would
be
love to see
interesting.
like a Mexico City team. That'd be kind of cool too.
That would be awesome. Yeah. I mean,
Carlos
Yeah.
Slim, what's up?
like in like
Oh, yeah,
our
I feel
ideal vision for Overwatch League, I'd like to see a Brazilian team, a team in Mexico City. I'd like to see Japan, like Tokyo, get a team like that. That's kind of pipe dream / 3 to 5 years from now type talk. Obviously, every major metropolitan city, it would be sick if there was a team. But
Mhm.
we'll get
Yeah,
to
This
that.
is where I pop back
Hopefully.
in the conversation and say, look, can we please get a Minnesota team? Like,
Oh,
it's
God.
a case.
Good luck, buddy.
No, okay. People do not respect this, but Minneapolis St.
Twin
Paul is
Cities,
one
let's
of the.
go.
It is one
Yeah,
of the
Twin
most
City.
fervent sports areas in the
Yes,
world as
I
far as
know.
like fan base goes. Like people love the crap out of the Vikings, the Twins.
I'd love
the
a Twin
Wild.
Cities
Like,
team, man.
the,
That'd be
the
awesome.
Timberwolves, we sometimes think that they're not there because they've been really poor at times for a long time. But hey, at least the other 3 teams we're very big sports fans of.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing that being one of the first cities though, just given markets. But we never know where the money is, man. There might be some body with a lot of money in Minnesota that might, that's the whole thing, right? It's whoever has the
true.
money, they can dictate where they want to put this team, or at least as long as Blizzard approves it. So it'd be pretty crazy to say that if Blizzard rejected certain locales. I can't quite see that happening, but you never know. Looks like Tusk.
I think there's.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, you have another question?
Yeah, there's another question
Okay.
here. So Tusk G Air asks, do you guys think deathmatch will be a good place to stash people who clearly didn't care about practicing for a competitive, ruining the game for people who want to play properly?
So let's take some salt in this question.
Just a little bit of NACL out there.
I mean,
I mean, I hope so.
Yeah,
like, if
I
you
mean,
don't
you can't,
care
why
about
not? Yeah.
Like, if you don't want to play as a team, go play deathmatch. Like, I hope so. I'm gonna be using deathmatch just to warm up, but
I'm gonna be probably not playing ranked anymore. I just want to play Deathmatch.
really,
That would look sick. It's like you just ape trading. That's all you were ever getting out of ranked anyway.
Jake, what if we take it a step further and then we have ranked deathmatch?
Oh,
Now that is what it really should be,
Bye-bye
right? Because the problem is if you do deathmatch and it's like you're putting a bronze player in the games with me, the bronze player's not going to play anymore. Like he's going to leave. So I think there's going to be secret elo, at least like quick play
has
elo,
to
where
be,
like
yeah.
like quick play is exactly the same as ranked aside from the different like rule set. Like you actually do have an MMR in quick play. You just can't see it. But there very much does exist. So I would be surprised if this game mode gets implemented if there wasn't a system like that. I don't know if this is maybe the final implementation of deathmatch. Maybe there's more to come. I think Blizzard is very open-minded, and they're going to look to integrate new features and sort of give the community what it wants as far as what exact deathmatch and modes and maps there'll be. I'd love to see a 1v1 mode personally, like a better one that's not like 1v1 elimination. You get to
Right.
fight once every 60 seconds. If they had
I
a
agree.
higher pace 1v1 mode, I think that'd be really, really cool.
called
Maybe
Quick
even like
Champions.
Yeah.
maybe like a 2v2 mode. I do in all seriousness, I do think there's potential for like more game modes outside of the 66 that can make Overwatch more fun, even if they're not played competitively or they're not the main competitive format. I don't think they ever will be, but I think they could really make the game a better experience for everyone.
I want to see what the meta is in deathmatch. That's the most intriguing part to me. Like, is it just literally going to be 6 deeps, or is there going to be place for a healer Or
Mercy
even
is
Mercy
sick.
going to be a must with their res? Like,
I don't know about Mercy. You in the FFA scenario, you can't res anyone, so can't res
oh yeah,
yourself.
FFA.
oh well, yeah.
Yeah, I
true,
think it's just
true.
team deathmatch,
Well,
right?
just
Yeah.
change it
Yeah.
to reverse resurrection, where you hit the button, and then 5 people around you just keel over
Just
death.
die.
That's where Mercy.
Everybody
Only
around
if you're
you
using the
hits, kill.
devil skin.
And
No,
the
no,
AoE
listen.
Go, all right.
It's been established in Game of Thrones that only death can pay for life. So the real true story is that Mercy is killing people in deathmatch to later resurrect people in the real game.
What kind of, that would be an awesome mechanic if Mercy did have something like that, freaking death counter to, yeah, that would be amazing.
I have one more question
Okay, sure.
from KOR or Core in chat.
Yep.
I don't know if any of us will know the answer, or if we do, probably can't say it anyway, but I'll ask it anyway. This is for C9. Do you think both rosters join together for OWL? And generally, like, I would just add to that, like, do we think the NA roster is getting dropped? Are they going to cherry pick the best players from both teams? I have no idea what's going to happen. What do you guys think?
Well,
Or no?
I mean,
league.
what we do know is that some players are still on their roster, but they're free to be looking for other teams, right? So I would guess they're going to combine. I don't know. What do you guys think?
No leaks.
Okay. I guess
No leaks. No
I have a
leaks.
feeling that some of our guests might know what's happening here, but I certainly don't. I mean, everyone's always felt like Surefour, like the combo of like Surefour, Adam, they've been playing together for so long. Like, you can build a roster around these players. Like, they have that level of talent. So it would be a bit of a surprise to me if they're dropped. Like, I wonder if maybe they're gonna combo like the best players from each team after looking into it. But at the same time, if you have Surefour, you know, that means you also have the buyout clause to Surefour. So that's valuable for Cloud9 as well. So I have no idea.
The big thing is that why would you drop somebody if they're, you know, as good as Surefour is right now, right? I mean, he's still arguably one of the best Pharahs, and, you know, just very, very capable in all the DPS roles. So it's, I don't know, it would be shocking unless you're just, you know, just want to get somebody new in here because Surefour's been around for too long. And same goes for Adam. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with him.
The reason would be is you want to have a happy player, right? Where, like, so one thing I think people don't realize when you get into really team building for Overwatch League is that you're going to have cases where you'll want players that are on for depth. You will want players for starters. You're going to need a more well-built team than what you have right now. Like, the idea that you're going to have teams in Overwatch League, they're just like your core of 6 players that don't change up from map to map. That's not going to be happening. The well-built teams will be swapping people in and out, but there will be some players that are effectively starters that are in more than others. So let's say you're going with the Laser Kittens roster. Maybe they want to stick with what they have now, and even though they could keep on Surefour for depth and all the rest, there's no saying that a player like Surefour would necessarily be happy with that arrangement. Like, Surefour is a good enough player that I'd imagine that for his Overwatch League endeavors, he would be wanting to be going for a full-on starter position where he is playing most of the reps and he's not getting swapped out as often as others. So what you're sort of indirectly getting at is that could you keep Surefour and keep him on as a bench depth player? Well, yeah, but you also want Surefour to be happy, and given his level of skill, I assume Surefour would want to make sure that he's on a team where he would be in that position.
Yeah, fair enough. It would be weird talking about Cloud9 without Surefour. that would be definitely a new one for everybody in the community, given that he's one of the originals. Let's see, anything else? There's some questions about NRG's roster, but that seems to be every week.
Ahul C says LGE question mark.
Oh man, that's yes, LGE
I mean,
question mark.
That's not even a question, but
Yes.
I'm just gonna pose it as a question.
Okay, I'll put you on the spot here, Jake. Okay, you can answer it if you can, or you can't. You know, I'll
no comment for now. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what the future holds.
Okay, cool. All right, I won't ask more then. All right, well, I think that's it. That's all we got for today. We actually had a shorter show today. It's amazing. We pulled it off for once. But Jake, thanks for hanging out with us today. I know I know it's like a crazy busy weekend, and obviously afterwards celebrating. But again, congrats to you and the USA team and everybody involved. And we're gonna be cheering hard for you. You still got home court advantage at BlizzCon, so definitely gonna be the entire crowd, or at least most of the crowd, is gonna be rooting for you guys.
Hey, BlizzCon is an international show. You never know how many players or how many fans from other regions are going to show up there. Who can say?
Please. It's
I hope the crowd shows up ready to support a whole bunch of teams, honestly, because who knows what the series will hold at BlizzCon. It's anybody's game. There's a lot of really dominant teams out there, but there's a lot of potential for upsets as well. So I would say it's going to be a huge tournament to watch, no matter what happens. I'm just so psyched and incredibly grateful to be able to be going there as a player.
Yeah, definitely. Big shout out to the committee too. We never give love to Jason, Sturrin, and Kai, of course.
Yeah, major love to Kai, honestly. I got to give him a huge shout out as always. I think he really stepped up to be like the coach of the team, even though he's still a committee member, quote unquote. I think of him as a coach, I would say, and he's just been really, really amazing in that capacity, in shaping us well as a team, but also helping each individual on the team become exactly what Team USA needed them to be, and I'm no exception to that. So I really do appreciate Kyle. He's put in a ton of work for us, and I think has been integral to our success. I don't think we'd be here without him.
Nobody wears those tights like him too, man.
Hell yeah, he looks good.
Yeah, totally. Well, any shout outs you want to do before you take off?
Besides Kyle, just a huge shout out to everybody that came out to support or supported on Twitch. It means a ton to us as players. We really, everyone on Team USA has a huge appreciation for all the support we've gotten, especially after the initial doubt in social media. So that people have really turned around on us and been really supportive is just awesome. So thank you guys for that. I hope you continue to support. If you ever see me in an event or whatever, don't hesitate, or me or anyone else on Team USA, don't hesitate to ask for an autograph or a picture or something. We love interacting with fans because they've been so great to us.
I said hi to to you this weekend, and you thought I was a fan.
I was like, hello.
after they won, I'm like, yo, Jake, congrats, man. He said, thank you for your support, and kept walking.
I was in such a daze. Actually, I think when you did that,
see you later, Jake.
Another interview. I had like 30 seconds or something. So
I know I specifically told Jake to give you the cold shoulder. Don't think that there's no maliciousness involved here. I was secretly plotting against you.
Oh my God.
As always, ZP,
as always, exactly right. But ZP, you want to do any shout-outs?
I mean, aside from the normal, you can follow me Twitter at TempoZP, and honestly, just big shouts to everyone who showed up over the weekend for the Santa Monica group stage, everyone that has been supporting the Overwatch World Cup so far, everyone that supports Overwatch esports in general. I do feel like we are at the beginning of a very exciting ride right now, and it's just been fun. Thank you so much to everyone.
Now you got contenders, right? Okay. Ben, how about you? Shout-outs?
Man, World Cup was an awesome 5 weeks. I'm like kind of bummed. We have to wait literally 3 months to see how World Cup ends. But it was a pleasure to watch. Viewership was great. Chat was great. The crowds were great. A lot of really cool storylines, like a lot of new players popping up, a lot of upsets, in my opinion. It was just a ton of fun to watch. Contenders does start this week, though. So this weekend, Contenders will be kicking off. So plenty more Overwatch esports to watch, and potentially probably 98% with Doomfist. So I'm super excited to tune into that as well. Plenty more Overwatch to watch, but man, it's going to be a while to see the conclusion of all this World Cup stuff. But yeah, you can follow me at Fishstix. We'll see you next week, et cetera, et cetera.
Cool. Yeah, 7 weeks, guys. Overwatch Contenders. I didn't even get a chance to show the schedule, but yeah, it's 7 weeks leading up to basically just leading up to BlizzCon or anything that's going on with Overwatch League. So, we've got plenty to watch, and I guess I want to thank all three of you guys for doing the show with me today. And Cruz has been in the chat here, so definitely want to give a shout out to obviously to Team UK too, and their committee members too. Numlocked, Hayes, and Stylosa. Stylosa, I have to say one thing about Stylosa, is that I had Stylosa on as a guest on my other show, Overwatchers, and he was like totally like touting up the UK team and saying that they've been playing amazing and very, very cohesive group, and you know, so it wasn't the complete surprise for me to see UK doing it as well as they did, given that he was just really building it up. But you know, so you know, big kudos to that team too, and just all the hard work that they've been doing all this entire time. But I'm really, really psyched for BlizzCon. I think it's going to be a super hype event. I'm hoping for some upsets there, because I think that's just going to be only good for esports Overwatch. So you know, I can't wait to actually go be sitting in the crowd, hopefully in the stadium room this year and not in just that section. We'll have to see. But if not, if it's still StarCraft, I think I'll still be okay with that too. Anyways, check out the VODs on youtube.com/ChanManV. Find us on iTunes by searching for the Overview or Overwatch, and you can find it on SoundCloud too, soundcloud.com/ChanManV. But that's going to be it, guys, for the Overview this week. So for Jake, ZP, Fishstix, and myself, ChanManV, we'll see you next week.